topic in our study of fluid statics is that of calculating the force on a plane surface that is submerged under a fluid or a liquid. So if you have a tank that is filled up to say up to some level of fluid, if it's a liquid, of course it will form a free surface. If it's a gas, it's just going to be the entire volume. If we have a liquid, we want to calculate what are the forces on these surfaces. What is the force acting on the floor and side wall? So how do we compute the force acting on the floor and side wall due to a fluid that is at rest and under the action of gravity? Now we did see that in the previous two parts that the pressure varies with height. The rate of change of pressure is minus rho g, which leads to P2 minus or P2 equals P1 plus rho g delta H. That is, if you have point 2 being below point 1, pressure increases as you go down, which means if you consider the floor is subjected to a pressure that is due to this amount of liquid or fluid that is above it. Okay, and what else did we learn in the last lecture? That the pressure at a given horizontal level is constant, so that whatever pressure is acting on the floor is the same at all points in the same level. In addition to dP over dz, we also learned that the pressure variation with respect to x and y is 0. Okay, so what you have here in the bottom is that the pressure variation on the floor is like a uniformly distributed load. If you have taken statics and mech of materials, you do know what I am saying, which is that it's a uniformly distributed load, and the force on the floor would be the pressure multiplied by the area of the floor. That would be P times A. That's simple enough. If your floor is simply horizontal, the force is pressure times area. Now what about the side wall? The side wall, say suppose this is the liquid level. From here, so if the atmospheric pressure is something at the top, from here the pressure increases and is maximum at the bottom. So if you have P atmosphere here and this height is H, the pressure at H is P atmosphere plus rho g H. The pressure at the bottom is the atmospheric pressure plus rho g H. It's a linear variation. If you consider any arbitrary height, z, the pressure at height z is the pressure at atmospheric pressure, which is at the top, or z is 0, plus rho g z. And at the bottom here, of course, z equals h. Okay, so this is the variation of pressure. Now what we want is, what is the total force acting on the side wall from here to here? What is the total force? Not the pressure, but the force. That's our goal here. In this topic, we want to understand what is the force on submerged surfaces. So here I have let's say this is the side wall. I consider some arbitrary height z, okay, and this is the top surface z equals 0, where I'll say the pressure is atmospheric pressure. Okay, so the pressure at height z, P of z equals P atmosphere plus rho g z. Okay, I am trying to calculate the force on an element which is at a height z and whose vertical height is dz. Think of a section of height dz that is stretching outward from the plane of the paper. So this section of height dz and this width perpendicular to the plane, let's say that width is w. Width perpendicular to the board is w, and height along the vertical is dz. So the area of the element is w times dz. That is, I am considering a patch whose area is w times dz, and this height of the element, or I'll say depth, which is really the z coordinate of the element from the top surface, which is the top surface, is z. Okay, now is z. Pressure at the element, the pressure at a depth of z is P atmosphere plus rho g z. Rho g z. So I have this element here. I'm going to blow this up and draw. Here is my element whose height is dz, and I'm going to assume that nominally a pressure of P of z acts here. That is, the element is so tiny that it's okay to consider this P of z to be uniform. I'll write the element is so small that it is all right. It is all right to consider P of z to be uniform across the element of height dz. Okay, and now what's the area of this element? The area of this element is w times dz. Remember, this sticks out of the board of width w. So I have the force on the element to be equal to P of z times w dz. This is like writing force is pressure times area. P of z dz. That is the force on this tiny element. So if I want the force on the entire side wall, I would write that this is integrated from z equals 0 to z equals h, P of z w dz. You can easily do the integration. This is simply 0 to h P atmosphere plus rho g z dz. P atmosphere plus rho g z dz. 1. So let's do the integration. I'm going to erase this top surface here. So I have the force on the side wall. I'm continuing this up here. This is P atmosphere. I have to multiply by W. I left out a W here. So I have P atmosphere times W times H plus I have rho GW that can come out. Rho GW integral 0 to H Z dZ, which is P atmosphere WH plus rho GW H squared over 2. H squared over 2. So the total force, I call this total hydrostatic force on the side wall is the atmospheric pressure times the area of the wall plus rho GWH squared divided by 2. Now it's common to assume that the atmospheric pressure is so small that you can simply write the force is equal to rho G W H squared over 2. Or I'll call this the resultant force. Why do I want to call it the resultant force? I have a pressure distribution. Okay, I have a pressure distribution that's acting like a linear load, like a linearly varying load. This is P of Z. Okay, now the load or the pressure increases as you go to the bottom, and so you can replace this entire force, your entire distributed load, with a single force of magnitude Fr, which is given by rho G W H squared over 2. So I can draw a resultant of magnitude Fr at a single position. Now that doesn't completely tell us complete the problem, because you can draw Fr anywhere, but you need to draw it at a specific location, or you also need to know where is the resultant supposed to act. And you can figure out that. You know how to do this from statics by assuming the moment about any one point, this point or any point is 0. That is, if I assume that Fr acts at a distance yr from the bottom, okay, I am saying Fr times yr should be equal to, actually just for consistency's sake, let me do this from the top, okay, because we have our Z equals 0 here. Okay, I want to write this as pi r, yr times Fr equals integral whatever is the force multiplied by the distance. So this is Z times P of Z W dZ integrated from 0 to H. Okay. So what do I have here? I have yr times Fr equals integral 0 to H Z P atmosphere plus rho Gz W dZ. I just assume that this is 0 or very small. So I have W times 0 to H Z squared dZ, which is W times H cube over 3. And I have yr on this side times What is my FR? Rho G H, sorry, rho G W H squared over 2, and I also have a rho G here. Rho G W H cube over 3. So if I take out rho G W H squared, I have YR equals 2/3 of H. YR is 2/3 of H. What I am trying to say is this is YR, this is 2/3 of H, the remaining distance is 1/3 of H. Well, that does makes a little sense because you have a distributed load which has a higher magnitude towards the bottom end than at the top end. So it is natural that your resultant is closer to the bottom than to the top. And because this is linear, it turns out that your resultant acts exactly 2/3 of the distance from the top or 1/3 of the distance of 1/3 of the height from the bottom. Okay, this is a very simple case. You have a rectangular wall, you have a simple load, the wall is oriented vertically, and you are trying to calculate what is the resultant force on the wall and where is it acting. So this is the magnitude of the resultant, and this is the location of the resultant force. This is the location of the resultant force, and this is applicable for a rectangular wall that's perpendicular, that is oriented, that is along the vertically oriented. Assuming that vertical also means the direction of gravity. Okay. Now the next thing that we want to discuss is how to compute the magnitude of the force and the location of the resultant force when you have surfaces that are not exactly rectangular shaped all the time and that are not exactly vertical or horizontal, which are the simple cases. So how do we treat surfaces that are of arbitrary area and that are inclined arbitrarily? Like for example, I could have a surface that is oriented arbitrarily with respect to the horizontal or the vertical. How are we going to treat these kind of surfaces? That's our next topic.